welcome to all of you to this roundtable or special dialogue with the ambassadors of the Global South. Now, this is a new initiative which we have started at Dakshin Global South Center of Excellence. Global South Center of Excellence, as you all know, this was set up here at the RIS in November 23, after during the India's G20 presidency, and this was inaugurated by Prime Minister himself, because this is what he promised: the first voice of the Global South Summit, and the second voice of the Global South Summit. This center was set up here at RIS. And RIS, which has been doing work on India's external economic engagements in the areas of trade, investment, technology, finance, and also large amount of work on India's development cooperation with all countries in the world. So it was thought it's appropriate to have Dakshin Global South Center of Excellence here at RIS. I have joined here more than 6 months ago here. Since then, and of course, before me also, a lot of work has been done at the Global South Center of Excellence. Now, the first major task which was given to us was basically to connect with the think tanks of the Global South. We have been following this very, very diligently, so that's what the major task has been. In fact, our Director General, Professor Sachin Chaturvedi, as you know, he has also become Vice Chancellor of Nalanda University. He's supposed to give the welcome address from Nalanda, but just 5 minutes ago, he called me. He's somehow out of his office. As soon as he comes back to his office, I hope he'll be able to welcome you. So that's why. Anyway, we have this particular dialogue in the hybrid mode, because normally all our activities are in hybrid mode, because we have, as I was mentioning, a large number of think tanks which are our partners. So far we have about 148 think tank partners in 88 countries. And our list is actually about 300. So we are trying every day. Today morning, we had a meeting with the think tanks in Laos. And in Egypt, Excellency, we have already 2 partnerships. One with the Egyptian Center for Economic Studies. Yes, with EPCS, that's right. Dr. Abla Abdel Latif, I had a meeting with her 2 3 months back, although this agreement was signed much before I came, but we are in conversation. Then we also had another already formal agreement with the Egyptian Council of Foreign Affairs. And His Excellency Mr. Mohammad Ashraf Rashid, he was here at the last conference we had on the South-South cooperation and Jungle cooperation. In fact, he is also one of the members, I think, of EFC and CFA. And then another 2 think tanks, which are National Institute for Governance and Sustainable Development. And then we also have the National Institute of Planning. So we already had a couple of virtual meetings with them. So hopefully they will also materialize in something. And then we are also working with some other think tanks. And of course, with your help, perhaps much more linkages would be created between India and Egypt. But here, in fact, we are doing something different. One is that we also started. You must remember, we have started a special lecture series. The first lecture we had from Professor Amitabh Nathika here last month. And then we have the honor, His Excellency, Mr. Dalal, to inaugurate this our dialogue with the Global South ambassadors. The idea is that, at the Global South Center of Excellence, it's not that just we are trying to promote just India. It means we also need to really learn from other countries of the Global South what kind of development experiences, because the focus here is, I know in your part of the world, a lot of other politics is happening. We'll come back to that also perhaps in a minute, but the focus is really on the development sector. And we also want to really learn the development experiences of all countries in the Global South, because there is so much learning needs to be done. So Egypt as a very important country, obviously there is so much to learn, and then this is what, the three ways, in fact, we are trying to do things at the Global South Center of Excellence. One is we are trying to work out certain common policy research, policy dialogue, because, but of course these are different kind of think tanks, so we have to work on different areas. Some of them work just on climate issues, some of them are working on strategic issues, many of them are focused more on women and, all the gender related issues. But depends on their priorities. We also work on the demand driven kind of principle. So we are trying to work. Then there is also issue in which we are trying to create certain things about the capacity building. So how Global South countries work together to work out certain capacity building programs, and Egypt, of course, to be very, very important partner in this. And the third thing is also, it may also lead to certain kind of technology transfer specific projects. And with all our conversations with our partners in the Global South, somehow close to 22, 23 specific projects we are able to work out. Still we are working with them. And then we also have trying to build collaborations with with other agencies in India and internationally. During our last major conference, we also had a formal agreement with APSTEM. So, they are working with the dryland agriculture. The areas in which we are working is basically agriculture, health and digital solutions, and also on climate issues and on women-led development and many, many other issues. So today, we are not really talking about India, Egypt in that sense, because of course, there are many other places where we can discuss. We all know how the two great civilizations, the kind of relations we have between these two countries. The founders of non-aligned movement, and then of course very close relationship with the leadership, all leaders, starting from Jawaharlal Nehru and the President Nasser. In 23, when we had the relationship was promoted to strategic partnership with President LCC and Prime Minister Modi when he visited Egypt. And then of course we are also partners in BRICS. And then of course over the years we have also built a solid institutional mechanism which really support our work. And I'm not going to talk about all those kind of working groups and many other things, all joint working groups and specific committees that are working in different areas. And of course also solid economic and other ties which we have. And which of course, we are working very, very close. But here, what we are really focusing on this kind of dialogue, that we would hear from you, sir, about the experiences Egypt has in the development sector. And what kind of partnerships you have developed, particularly in the African region, and also with other countries in the Global South, and how can really India and Egypt can work together in the spirit of South-South cooperation, and also we can also build another institutional mechanism like in BRICS here together, and also in many, many other forums. So this is the kind of the framework we have for the discussion today, which of course would be chaired by. I'm very thankful to Ambassador Ashok Sajjanahar. You all know that how busy he is all the time on TV, on media, on today. A lot of things are happening. Prime Minister is out. So thank you so much for giving us this time. Otherwise, you would have been in some other studio, I'm sure, sitting there discussing. Even last night we were discussing Prime Minister's visit to Cyprus. And of course, the G7 is happening. A lot of things are happening in your part of the world, sir. Uh, and yeah, so before I hand over, to Ambassador Sarjanha to kind of, chair this session, uh, let me just introduce Ambassador Kamal Zayat Dalal. As he was just mentioning, he's not new to India, but he went to schooling in Bombay. His father was also a diplomat, Consul General, I think, in Bombay. So he has good memories of India. He grew up here, so he's more Indian than perhaps many other Indians. But I also had the opportunity to meet you in Gandhinagar first, and the wife as well. So many things we discussed. That's why I thought he'll be the appropriate person perhaps to start this dialogue here. So he is a Bachelor in Commerce and Business Administration from the Faculty of Commerce and Business Administration from Helwan University. And since then, I could see that he has various positions in the foreign ministry. Of course, he's ambassador here of India to India and Bhutan. But he was also Minister Plenipotentiary, Director of Palestinian Department. He still continued to be political advisor, Interagency Gaza Crisis Management Committee, and many other things. But from 2017 to 21, he was also Deputy Chief of the Mission at Tel Aviv. So we also have experience in Israel for 4 years, and he was also, many directorates he has looked at, particularly in the East area. He was also consular at in Doha, and then he has worked in the EU affairs. He was also second secretary in the European Union. So many, and of course, many other things and many other places where he has served. What you can see that he has a wide range of experience within the foreign ministry of Egypt. Particularly, I could see from his CV a lot of experience in the Middle East, Israel, Gaza, and in the Palestine area, and also in the European affairs and many other things. And of course, he is in India, his experience, earlier experience in India, here in India. Very fortunate, yes. So we are also very fortunate that you are here and you could have that to give us something. And Ambassador Ashok Sarjanha, I think he doesn't need any introduction to this audience, but he served in the Indian Foreign Service for almost 3 decades. He was our ambassador and one of the, I would say, leading experts on Central Asia. He was our ambassador in Kazakhstan. And then, of course, he was also our ambassador in Sweden and Latvia. So that's why we actually keep bumping each other on the European affairs, on Central Asian affairs. And you'll be glad to know that, when the last India Central Asia foreign ministers meeting, the dialogue which took place just, 2 weeks ago, if you look at the final statement, joint statement, Dakshin was also mentioned, where it was mentioned that Dakshin would work in the development sector, something work together, learning from each other from Central Asia, India, and we will really need your guidance and support in facilitating some of our programs in Central Asia. And you thought a better person to kind of guide us on the Central Asian affairs. And he has also served in our missions in Washington, in Brussels, in Moscow, in Geneva, in Tehran, in Dhaka, Bangkok, and many other places. And of course, he was mentioning the multilateral trade negotiations. And he continued to write, continued to speak on all foreign policy issues, broader issues. To start this particular, let me say, the dialogue with the ambassadors of the Global South, You can't have, better ambassadors than Sajjanahar and Ambassador Jalal without this. So we'll have, you can introduce the subject, sir, and then after that, we can speak about the experiences and then we can open for discussion. Roughly about 5:30 or something. We can finish for this. Perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Sachdeva. Thank you for this very gracious introduction. Let me first do the honors, that is, congratulate and compliment the RIS and you in person, Professor Sachdeva, for this very welcome initiative. I think getting the ambassadors of global south countries or developing countries here to share their experiences, to share the best practices that these countries have been able to generate over all these many years and decades. I think this is a very welcome move. It's a very welcome move because different countries have had different circumstances, and through different circumstances, they have learned how to respond to those challenges. So sharing the challenges here, and from India, we share what we have been, whether it is in the area of digital public infrastructure or it is in the area of health, education. So I think it's a mutual learning experience. So thank you and compliments for this initiative. Equally, thank you for and compliments for inviting His Excellency the Ambassador of Egypt to be the inaugural speaker. Because I think on multiple levels, there could not have been a better choice than Egypt, because Egypt, as you mentioned, our relationship goes back way. We have come into the contemporary era, but before that, if you see, Egypt and India, they traded 3,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago, or more, maybe, yeah. So, but it goes really way into antiquity and way into historicity. So there couldn't have been a better choice in terms of inviting here and bringing, whatever has been the experience, not only of centuries, but of millennia in terms of sharing with us. The first comment that I would like to make here is that, it is high time that the global south came together. Because the world is facing very many challenges. The world is a very contested place. It is not a stable place. It is not a peaceful place. And every day we are seeing a new contest and new challenges coming about. We thought, first when COVID-19 pandemic, everyone said, oh, this is, what is that expression? Once in a generation or once in a century, that it's a black swan. That's right. Like, it appears to be so much in the past that year. Otherwise, that used to be an expression of everyday use, a black swan event. Okay, once it goes, things will again normalize, things will again stabilize. But that 1921, you had the Russian-Ukraine conflict. Everyone thought the Russian-Ukraine conflict was going to be over in a week, 2 weeks, a month at the most. It was more than 3.5 years. It is still continuing. It is continuing, and then again you have in October 23, you have the Israel-Hamas in Gaza. And there also, people thought that it is going to explode, because that is really sitting that region, sitting on the cake. And it's going to have such huge ramifications and implications as far as the world is concerned. But that has also been continuing now for more than 1.5 years. And now we have this Iran war. Now, the point I'm making is it is a very uncertain world, where it's a turbulent world. And in that context, the impact of this contestation around is felt mostly, it is felt by the whole world, but it is felt mostly by the developed, by the global south. So it is imperative for the global south to come together and to first find solutions and put its weight behind. Like India has been right from
22, when Prime Minister Modi met Mr. Putin in Samarkand on the sideline of the SEO summit. He said, "This is not an era of war. We have to resolve issues through dialogue and diplomacy." And that has been the constant refrain that the Prime Minister has used, even when it comes to Israel Hamas, even now Israel Iran. And that is why we did not join the declaration by the SCO, by the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, because condemning one side or the other side doesn't help matters. You have to focus on bringing the conflict to an end. And in that context, the developing countries need to come. We are here, as Professor Gulshan Deva has said, we basically, we don't focus on security, we don't focus on stability, we don't focus on this peace and conflict issue, but basically on development and in terms of what can we do together. And if we look at the economic aspects, the implications of all these conflicts that are taking place, or these black swan events that are taking place, the countries that suffer the most are the global south. Whether it is in terms of shortage of energy, or it is rise in the price of energy, supply chain disruptions, or you look at debt issues, it is basically the developing countries. We saw what happened when Russia-Ukraine conflict took place. The fact that there were no food grain, I know that, having been in the WTO and having negotiated for on behalf of countries like Egypt, Morocco, which are called the NFTC, the net food importing countries. Yeah, so I know what the challenges are. So at that time, when that conflict took place, no one realized that Ukraine and Russia were such major suppliers of grain or food items to the world. Anyway, the problem here, what I'm saying is that the time of the global south has come. And that is what Prime Minister Modi, when he launched, within the first 10 days of India's assumption as the presidency of G20, we had our first voice of the global south. On 1st January, India took over. On the 12th and 13th of January, we had the first voice of the Global South Summit. Basically, the idea at that time was that there are 20 countries which might account for about 80% of the global trade, might account for 80% of the global GDP and global exports. But there are 180 countries which are sitting outside the room where the decisions are taken. And all the decisions that are taken, they have the greatest impact on the countries which are not in the room. And so their concerns, their anxieties, their ambitions, their aspirations, they need to be understood and they need to be woven in. And I think we did try our best. And as Professor Sanjeva was saying, we were really able to get many of those aspects into the final declaration. And again, with the help and cooperation, collaboration of everyone, we were able to get consensus on the declaration on the first day of the G20 summit, which no one really expected. Having seen the contestation that had happened in Bali in November 22, no one expected that we'd be able to get there. But we were able to get there, and without, on the first day itself, we were also able to get the membership of the African Union. And that also on the first day. And that was also an issue that had been hanging fire for many, many years. And no country had had either the leadership or the initiative to take it forward. So I think Prime Minister Modi was able to do that. Then in November, we had we had the second Voice of Global South Summit, basically to take stock of what had been achieved in the G20 final declaration and share the results with all the members. And I think it was gratifying and rewarding that more than 120 countries participated in both these Voices of Global South. And the third one was held last year in August of 24. Basically, it has to be a conversation has to be a continuing conversation. It is not a one-shot affair that you have spoken and then you let go of it, because the problems are different as they are evolving. It is not that the same problem, the same issues are coming. So I think it is a very good initiative, Professor Sachdeva and RIS, that you have started this the practice, this put this into position. And also thank you very much for inviting me to chair this inaugural session. But in addition to everything else, in addition to Egypt's position as a very significant player and a very significant actor on the global South scene, I can say that Egypt as a trusted friend and partner of India also occupies a very important place in the mind, in the psyche, not only of recent events, of course, what Professor Sachdeva mentioned about the relationship between the Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru and the President Gamal Abdel Nasser. We have a street named after him. I'm sure you have been there. I think that reflects the respect with which that he said. But even before that, whether it was Mahatma Gandhi and Zabdul who sort of interacted with each other on independence initiatives, going forward, of course, 1956 when it was the Suez crisis, India stood by with Egypt, whether it in 1967 when it had the Six-Day War, India. Yes. So whether it is and when there was a visit of President Anwar Sadat to Israel, we lauded, we complimented that step, that move, although it did not receive universal applause from many other countries. So I think going back, there has been a very strong historical bind and connect between the two countries. And I think even more recently, when Prime Minister Modi came to office in May of 2014, we had President Fattah al-Sisi. He also came in 2015. And but then his visits to India, the state visit to India, state visit 23 January, that was for the, but before that, but he came in 2016, he was there for, yeah, 23 twice. So the point I make is that it is has been a very steady stream of contact and meetings. And then Prime Minister Modi, of course, went there in 2023. And but that notwithstanding, Prime Minister Modi's visit might have been once, but both the leaders have met several times on the sidelines, whether it is the BRICS summit, whether it is in Sharm in 2017, I remember. UNGA also, BRICS also, SU also. So I think there have been a large number of meetings. The point I want to make here is that there is a great rapport and net understanding between the two countries and between the leaders of the two countries. And even when Pakistan took place, we received a call from President when there was the terrorist attack also on the 7th of October, then also Prime Minister Modi and President al-Sisi spoke at the end of that month. So whether it is issues of development or issues of peace, security, and stability, there has been a very close coordination between them. So I think with these opening words, I will say a warm welcome, once again, compliments to RIS and a very warm welcome, and give the floor and please share your thoughts about, as we've been discussing, the development experiences of Egypt and how we can work together, not only India and Egypt, but Egypt as a very prominent member of the global South, how we can work together in dealing with the challenges.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ambassador. Before I start, I don't know, this is the problem when you speak after someone like Professor Butch and Ambassador Ashok. You don't leave you anything to speak about. This is the challenge. This is the challenge that I'm facing right now. Because they said, oh, and when if I read my reading notes, simply they said, okay, I don't need to read again. But before I start my speaking notes, I just want to tell you that I don't know, India has been destined around me somewhere or another. It has always been there. I opened my eyes in India, and after my father finished his tenure here in Mumbai, we went back to Cairo, and they moved to a new house. The address of the house was 44 Nehru Street. I don't know. And you know that Destiny takes me a horse survey and I become ambassador back to India. I don't know what's wrong with India. Because, you know, when I was in school, I wouldn't believe that. Just go to Mumbai. We would say in the morning, you know, the morning bed, India is my country, all Indians are my brother. So I don't know. It seems that I don't know what's wrong with India. I hope that I'm buried in my country. But I don't know, but I'm buried. This is your karma. This is my karma. Yeah, exactly. And referring to our relations, that I will not speak about relations in India. I'm sure you would like to ask, but you mentioned that it goes back to 3,000 or 4,000 years. Actually, it's more. When I was supposed to did an exercise, I wanted to know the real depth of the relation. Because I was always under the impression it's only contemporary, from the time of Mahatma Gandhi and Sarkar. There has always been a duality in the relations between the nation. First, we had in contemporary terms. First, we had the Sarkar rule and Mahatma Gandhi. Then we had Nehru, and after Nasser. Then we had after that Mubarak and Gandhi. And then in contemporary or recently, we have what I call the new duality, which is what I call the 60 modern duality. Because both of them came in 2014, they were elected in 2014 with a vision of the change for their countries, and they were so ambitious and over ambitious, making a lot of people know that they're over ambitious. And I will tell you our experience in where we have been and where we go. But actually, the relations between us was far and I traced it as much as I could. Maybe it goes far beyond, but as far as I could reach, it goes back to 4,700 years ago. It was during the king. We had a king named Sport, it's the fifth dynasty, and at that time he started trading with the land of Pun, and the land of Pun was what's called now India. And afterward, they have found traces of Indian spices and material in mummification of our relations. And even we look like each other. We have the same kind of tradition. We have a lot of similarities. Nobody in India understands it, and nobody will understand. I tend to, because I've been in both places and I've been raised in both places, I understand what I know what I maybe you do not know here in India the similarities that we have. Maybe a lot of people should not know the similarities. There's a lot of similarities. Ambassador Shok spoke about the recent turmoil and it is what I call world diplomacy. And they need to have one voice for the global south. I do agree with that. But it should be a principle. We should attach a lot of our weight on principle. Because contemporary politics, contemporary international relations, countries are putting interest before principle. And that is very important. And we should be aware of that, especially this is historical injustice that we have all not all the big time. Now I will move to our experience in development. So I will start with my speaking notes and then we will open the floor. If you have any questions, I will open anything. I will just speak my own. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to express my profound gratitude for the research and information for the RIS and the Dakshin Center for inviting me to address such a distinguished and august gathering of diplomats, experts, think tanks, media, and most importantly, this is very, very dear to my heart, shapers and the leaders of the future whose study. Let me start my brief remarks with two ancient Egyptian quotes. From the Book of the Dead. The Book of the Dead, by the way, we call it the Book of the Dead, but it is actually the Book of Life. This is short philosophical life. And that would simply sum up Egypt's wisdom and quest for a better future. For example, I quote, what I hate is ignorance. Smallness of imagination, the eye that sees no further than its eyelash, its own eyelash. All things are possible. Who you are is limited by who you think. Second quote is judge by cause, not by effect. And that is a very important quote that I will refer to in particular when we speak about the darkness. In addition, Egypt being the cradle of civilization and humanity, we have a tradition of drawing lessons not only from our own history, but from also the mankind's history. Ever since we gained our independence in 1952, Egypt embarked on several waves of efforts aimed at building and solidifying state institutions based on underlying characteristics of the nation-state notion, which is another important element that that's what's happening today. Coupled with confronting fluid regional and international challenges of the Cold War, together with India, Indonesia, and other nations. The second wave, in what we call the War and Peace of the 1970s, in which we reclaimed our territory after the successful 1970 war, which laid the foundation for a regional peace with Israel. Then came the wave of combating terrorism today, coupled with the rise of new regional actors attempting to utilize religion, sectarianism, and sectarian narratives to advance their malicious objectives in the region. Starting from the 1990s, Egypt started the path of economic growth and succeeded in achieving high growth rates during the first decade of the 21st century. But to tell you the truth, due to structural deficiency, these economic gains will trickle down to the rest of the population, where 97% of them, which led to, among other things, 2011 and 2013, with the election of President Sisi in 2014, and drawing lessons from the deficiencies we had in our economic policy, the Egyptian government embarked on an ambitious program. It totally transformed. Well, I would also dare to say that we are living in this transition. However, this needed a new paradigm change in our mindset. We genuinely believe in our capabilities and the role of the youth in shaping the future. Having said that, Egypt structured a multi-faceted plan for political, economic, social reforms, coupled with a new wave of tourism that we faced during the past 10 years and the fluid regional situation. Today, I shall focus on laying down the essence of our economic reform program, make it more inclusive, seamless, and modern. Over the past 10 years, Egypt has undertaken an unprecedented national socio-economic driven by mega projects, structural reform, and the vision to build a modern, inclusive, and competitive nation. Our journey has been one of ambition, determination, and results that we are eager to share with brothers and sisters across the world. The main underlying themes of our economic reforms were simply economic resilience, connectivity, state-of-the-art digitalization, and sustainable development. After an initial period of stabilizing the economy in view of the decline of almost all economic and social indicators due to the fluid situation in the aftermath of the 2011 and 2015 revolutions, Egypt launched the second phase of reform since 2020, aimed at addressing the monetary and fiscal imbalances through radical and targeted reforms. These reforms contributed to increasing the resilience of the Egyptian economy, transforming it into a productive and competitive, basing its ability from domestic and external shocks. The main pillar of our economic reform program focused on the following aspects, which there are six. First, raising the level of governance and efficiency of the institution. Second, improving the business environment, increasing of the private sector. Third, improving the efficiency of the labor market through a development and use of technical and training system. Fourth, human capital development. Fifth, diversifying the productive structure of the Egyptian economy. Sixth, accelerate the financial inclusion and facilitate active finance. The goals of these reforms could be tailored into three broad categories. First, achieving stability in macroeconomic indicators. Second, improving investment environment. Third, adopting an effective social program to protect the poor and having said that, let me put forward the figures pertaining to the outcome of these reforms. First, GDP growth in Egypt reached 4.3% in 2024, despite the region's situation. Here, I would underline that according to the World Bank report, regional development in the Middle East 2024 was the average of 1.3%. Egypt achieved 4.3%, despite all the challenges that we are at the heart of all the issues in the Middle East. But this proves that how resilient the Egyptian economy has become. And we targeted 2025 5.1 and reaching 6.3 by 2027. Local and foreign investment reached $46.1 billion in 2024 and expect to reach a historical high of 60 and 85% 2025-2026 respectively. International foreign reserves reached a historical level of $47.1 billion in December 2024. These results take me to the second theme of our reform program, connectivity. Throughout the past millennia, we have been living on a tiny stretch of land along the banks of the Nile. This is why we say Egypt is the lake of the Nile. However, this represents only approximately 6% of our territory, and thus any economic development would not be sustainable unless we utilize all the capacities and capabilities of our territory. This new paradigm fundamentally reshaped it with the construction of 24 new cities, for instance, the administrative capital, the Alamein, Ismailia, coupled with an extensive network of modern highways, bridges, and tunnels spanning over 7,000 kilometers. Egypt has dramatically enhanced its internal physical connectivity. We have linked the Red Sea with the Mediterranean coast, connecting agricultural land to industrial hubs, ensuring that all citizens in every corner of our nation have improved access to vital services and economy. Our efforts to modernize and expand railway networks are significant, notably the almost finished and of the first e-highway electronic train network, which links key cities such as Ain Sokhna on the Red Sea to the continue administrative capital, Alexandria and maximum to 100. Further enhancing together the fabric of our diverse population, breaking down geographical barriers and fostering a truly integrated national economy. The notion of connectivity also extends to the regional development. Beyond our borders, Egypt views its strategic location not only as an endpoint, but as a gateway to the African continent. Our mega projects are designed to bolster this role. We're actively engaged in initiatives that aim to establish robust transportation corridors, linking the Mediterranean to the heart of Africa, facilitating trade, and reducing logistical burden. A prime example is the ongoing development of the Mediterranean Red Sea corridor, which includes upgrades to road networks and logistical zones. Projects focus on enhancing our energy infrastructure, including the massive renewable energy venture like the Benbank Solar Park, which is the biggest solar park in the whole world, are part of a broader vision to contribute to integrating African energy grid, as exemplified by the Egypt-Sudan electricity interconnection project. Our investment in digital infrastructure, including landing of a new submarine data cable and the establishment of a regional data center are strategically aligned with the enhancing Africa's digital backbone. These digital highways complement our physical corridor, facilitating digital trade, remote collaboration, and the flow of information that is vital for Africa's economic integration and development. The continuation of expansion and modernization of the Suez Canal, including the new Suez Canal project, remains a timeless artery of global trade, serving as a pivotal connector and shortening distances and facilitating commerce not only for Egypt but for the entire African continent and beyond, now further empowered by the digital revolution. Similarly, our efforts extend to strengthen our bond with the Middle East to enhance both capacities, such as significant expansion and modernization of any Sokhna port and East Forsyth port, and improve logistical hubs, Egypt is cementing its role as a crucial bridge between Africa and Asia. This physical infrastructure is increasingly augmented by digital initiatives, enabling seamless data exchange for customs, logistics, and financial transactions across the region. Furthermore, energy interconnectivity projects linked like the Egypt-Saudi Arabia electricity interconnection project, bilateral cooperation with the electricity grid between Egypt, Jordan, and Iraq underscore our commitment to regional energy security and stability. These integrated physical and digital endeavors foster greater trade flow, facilitating the movement of goods and people and enhance regional economic stability, contributing to a more cohesive Middle East landscape. Going beyond domestic and regional connectivity, our strategic geopolitical positions Egypt as a vital link between the global south and Europe. We are actively developing and enhancing our infrastructure to strengthen these connections. This includes significant investment in improving our Mediterranean ports, such as the Damietta port development, to handle increased trade volume with European partners. Furthermore, in the realm of energy, we are actively pursuing projects like the EU-Africa Interconnector, a planned electricity cable that will link the grid of Egypt, Cyprus, Greece, and Europe, turning Egypt into a regional energy hub and ensuring stable energy supply. Our digital infrastructure also plays a crucial role, which with numerous submarine data cables transiting through Egypt, serving as a critical conduit of data traffic between Europe and Asia. These connections are not merely about economic value. They are about fostering dialogue, culture exchange, and mutual understanding across the region. Moving to the third theme of our reform program, which is the digitalization. Recognizing it is as indispensable catalyst to development, Egypt has made significant strides in digitalization. We have invested heavily in expanding and upgrading our national fiber optics network, ensuring high-speed internet access across urban and rural. Initiatives such as Digital Egypt platform are central to streamlining government services, making them more accessible and efficient for our citizens and businesses. This digital infrastructure is not about convenience. It's about creating a seamless flow of information and services, digitally connecting our citizens to the government, business, to markets, and individuals to knowledge. However, the development of a smart city and promotion of e-commerce and digital payments are transforming daily life and fostering a more inclusive digital economy within our borders. These digitalization efforts ensure that our physical infrastructure is complemented by a robust digital nervous system, a key success story for people as a model for others. The relevance of these development initiatives to the global south cannot be overstated. Our experience, as you just mentioned, our experience in Egypt in realizing such ambitious projects offer valuable lessons and best practices for our part. Ultimately, these comprehensive development initiatives are an investment in the right of the We reflect our belief that our collective strength lies in our ability to connect, collaborate, and build together. By enhancing our shared infrastructure, both physical and digital, and by sharing our experience across all phases of development, we are not only achieving economic growth together, but also fostering a deeper understanding and appreciation among our people, paving the way for a truly interconnected global south. For Egypt, South cooperation is not a recent discovery, nor is it a new policy trend. It's etched into the very fabric of our modern history and foreign policy. From the days of decolonization, and the spirit of Van Gogh ignited an aspiration of new independent nation, Egypt stood shoulder to shoulder with its sisters and brothers in Africa and Asia and Latin America. The essence of South cooperation lies in its fundamental difference from traditional development paradigm. It's not about aid, it's about partnership. It's not about conditionality, it's about solidarity. It's not about dependence, it's about mutual respect and sharing. I would like to conclude by a quote from the famous Indian philosopher and poet Rabindranath Tagore. And I quote, "The most important lesson that man can learn from life is that is not that there is no pain in the world, but that it is possible for him to transmute it to joy." Unquote. So let me conclude by the following lessons that we have learned. We should all be wise in navigating in a very turbulent international landscape. Second, knowledge. We should all be knowledgeable of all the potential challenges. Third, we should all be imaginative in our solution. And finally, we should all possess the belief in our collective.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for a very comprehensive and detailed, thought-provoking address. You know, when I was listening to you, I thought, it came to me that the experiences of Egypt are very similar to the experiences of India. Because I think the challenges that Egypt has gone through are similar to the challenges that we have also gone. You don't have a particularly friendly environment around.
But friendly with Egypt.
We are also blessed with similar circumstances around us. So that having been said, I think our responses have also been quite similar. What you mentioned about creativity, innovativeness in terms of dealing with those challenges, I think that has been similar. And in the more recent past also, we have spoken about connectivity, we've spoken about governance, we've spoken about topics of digitization. And now your experience here in the last 6 months would have told you that these are exactly the issues on which we have been. So we've been focusing exactly on the same issues, and we have, I think, through the leadership that has been shown and through the hard work of the people, we've been able to deliver good results. Over the last 10 years, we've been talking more about the last 10 years from 2014 till now. India was the 10th or 11th largest economy. Today, India is the fourth largest economy and soon to become the third largest economy. Fastest growing major economy, has been able to lift more than 250 million people, more than that, over a period of 10 years out of poverty. So I think there are very many similarities, but still, that having been said, challenges remain for both of us. And so we need to work together. So with these words, let me throw the floor open and for any comments, any questions that anyone might have. I'm really very happy to see that there's such a wonderful collection of scholars and academics and also students amongst the audience. So I'm sure they have a number of questions. Your address, I'm sure, has provoked several questions on the floor.
Let me just start with some other thing. One is, it was absolutely, you are right, that, when I was also listening very carefully, as if, I was reading something about the kind of policy framework we have in the last, 10, 15 years now. Similar kind of issues, similar kind of aspirations, and also similar kind of challenges. But, now, since you understand India and Egypt both pretty well, now one is, now there's a lot of discussion in the last, at least 2 years now about India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor. How do you look at this particular development? I mean, it's a long-term project, obviously, long-term ambition. All connectivity projects are long-term. So as we tried, our external business, because in fact, they can think about states for now. And then we said, it is to build, but once it was built, it transformed the world. So we may be just talking about this for the next 20 years, or maybe certain things will just happen. We have been talking about this corridor also for quite some time. So how do you, from Egyptian point of view, how do you defend this development? Because some people also put it as a kind of thing. Alternative to the something. Some people would say any of the trade will grow, so all possibilities are there everywhere. So one is that, how do you really look at this? And second, which in fact tomorrow you are going to talk at ORF, I just saw that today, about what is happening in these all together, and now the whole maybe when it was set up, it was something different. Now the situation has entirely different. Since we have a lot of experience in that part of the world, and you lived in Israel also, it will be very interesting for us to know also how do you really look at and what is your kind of understanding. That very slightly away from what we talking, but I think it's very important to get to discuss that.
It's a subject.
Because anyway, development
very close to my heart.
and development security are very much linked, so we can't just discuss about development without all this.
Thank you so much. Actually, the two issues are very important. And I knew that they were coming. And that is why I told you when I was speaking about the Egyptian code, I told you, judge by codes, not by extent. And will start with the second issue, which is I've been working on this issue should be developed. Oh, West Asia. We all should look into the root cause, and I refuse. I always refuse taking any camps because I'm sure you all would be presuming that I would take the camp. Absolutely. But this is not a fact. I would take the camp against, and this is what we have made peace as ambassador. Sure, just mentioned. Let me tell you a brief what we did, what happened in the past. After 1970, where we got became our land, President took his aircraft, and ambassador was to remember that he took his aircraft. Remember, it was a 707. These are landmarks in our history, our identity. He took the Boeing 707 and departed Cairo Airport. And nobody thought that this is possible for this aircraft to land on board. It would have been much easier to accept, hasn't it, that this aircraft would land on the moon rather than which is 15 minutes later it would land in the moon. The same thing happened with Israel. We did not see. And I, during my service, Tel Aviv, I got to know one of the officers, Arya, who used to serve in the idea, and told me, damn it, no, that was my job. He told me I was a sniper. It was on top of the towers of HCO. But we did not do that. But we thought that it's going to be an issue. For how in the government, but they were waiting. So we were all prepared. Once they go, we were all prepared to shoot if we see that something happens. And they were astonished. See, and they were astonished by the Egyptians to see President Sadat coming down these facilities. But he did this whole step in a belief. And this is something that has been enshrined in the Egyptians. We had the first known peace treaty by Ramses II. And we are peace loving with nature. But we are very old. We have been there for so many years. So a lot. And as I told, we learned this always some way or another. So when he went to make peace with Israel, and the agreement was signed in '79, including a component for the Palestinians. The Arabs were so angry, the Arab countries were so angry, put us out of the Arab. And he placed a wave of terror in the East. Very high wave. Even President Sadat lost his life because of terror. So, and terrorism that was against the Muslims. But the Egyptian society was so still happening. But we start to see the trajectory. Then came what happened with the Palestinians. They went with the Oslo Accord. Palestinians and the Israelis signed the Oslo Accord. Because a lot of people think that what happened in December, in October 2020, it all started there. It did not start there. The history did not start from the 7th of October. That's a long time ago. That's why I always underline that we should abide by principle. In Oslo, after Oslo, there was a wave of trade in Israel. A lot of people were against whether Palestinians or Israel. They were against it. They think something happened in my country, but it's very good. But unfortunately, with the assassination of Prime Minister Rabin, in what they call now Kar Rabin, which is the square of Rabin, where they were assassinated, the Israeli side started at linear line, linear trajectory towards moving slightly, gradually, but continuously, more and more to the left. Until they reach where they are today. An extremist government, members in the government who, by Israeli Knesset laws, were categorized as terrorists, not by any Egyptian or Israeli. They were categorized by the Israeli Knesset as terrorists. Today, they are in government in Israel. And things will continue to deteriorate unless the international community, all of them, that was very clear that you cannot be happy. What you're doing is wrong. In terms of friendship, in terms of human rights, in terms of international law. Because those who are complacent with that, things will turn around. They will be affected by the same thing that they are like. The same thing that happened with the West. A lot of Western countries were at a certain point speaking about the notion of the principles of human rights. What is human rights not yet proven? Somebody can, anybody has a first an answer. What's happening with human rights? Or is it things? And now I'm sorry to say that because I have so many of them, and I know that that's what the government. We are scorning you. And the real essential thing, and this is why I told my friends, everything. We always brag about and at least now the government, we always speak of a lot about Iran, which is an existential threat. You know what is the real it's like Hamas. The real existential threat is Israel. The society concept. This is the real one. You don't see what it is. And by the way, this is not an analysis. This is learning from the Israeli. And there is a large portion from the Israelis that understand what I'm saying. They should learn from their own history. And this is the real history. What we call upon the international community is that we should all give a clear message. We have obligations to them, and we still have to. We have a lot of cooperation, coordination on various matters, but we have a tradition that we tell them what to read, and when we really think what you're doing is wrong, and we tell them what you're doing is wrong. We're not against it, but actually, by saying that, you are supporting it. You're doing the wrong thing, you're on the wrong path. And answering your question directly regarding what's happening in Iran, and I covered a little bit on Gaza, and if you want me to elaborate further, I'm more than happy. Moving on, the issue of Iran, in order to analyze what has happened in this part of the world from Israel. Israel does not have a foreign policy. Israel does not have a foreign policy. Look what's happening inside Israel. In order to analyze, understand what So domestically, the Prime Minister, Prime Minister Netanyahu, has issued legal issue for legal cases against them. And there had to be something like this big war that tried people politically alive, especially after what happened on the 7th of October, which, by the way, we condemn. In Egypt, we were very clear. We are not complicit. We tend by our principles. And by the way, this is what the people in India. In India, they have very strong relations with Pakistan. Very, very strong. But as strong as with India. But we will not stand in the middle. Think that is what is unacceptable, we voice that it is unacceptable. When Pahalgam happened, we issued a statement, we say what we need. This is what our position is on. Anyway, ever since the 7th of October, we have voiced our concern. I'm sorry, I'm just going to Iran. So it is crucial that all of us voice concern. We have condemned what happened, attacks, really attacks on. We do not want, we do not see that nuclear based in the Middle East completed. We want the Middle East to be of the mass destruction of it. And this is, by the way, this is the Egyptian initiative presented to IEA in 1974, together with Iran. I'm sure you remember. And this remains our position. Do not want anything that but the whole race starts, then they're going to be the especially in the region of so many non-state actors. So I'll stop here, because I can speak for hours.
No, but could you add just 2 sentences more as to, now this has been continuing for the last 5 days. And it's getting bloodier and more violent by the day. And we see that Mr. Trump has cut short his present to Canada. He's come back.
No, I do not follow. He's coming back for you.
Yeah. He said,
I did not follow this.
Yeah, he said so because he finished his engagements on the 16th evening, because they are 12 hours or so behind us. So that is the morning our time. And then you can sit down and have task related to it. So what do you foresee in terms of, is it coming to a closure?
It is very dangerous and it is very true. I don't think that there's only one person, the whole world, including Trump, or that we are worried. It can go either way, it can go any way. It depends on the reaction. But is Israel willing to stop attacking Iran, stop retaliate? From the statements that I saw coming from Prime Minister Netanyahu yesterday, I thought I was watching press conference. I did not have the impression that I did not have the impression. Understanding their body language, understanding the way words, color. There's a little thing that we should put words in, right? Anyway, from the body language and the kind of rhetoric that we speak, I do not have any impression.
Second question.
I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. The second question, I don't like to speak about Iran because we are not part of it. And I see that it is impolite for me to comment on an initiative that would be not part of it. But I would prefer to speak about it because climate it remains a theoretical. And it I think it will make direct for quite some time because the whole region is on. So, however, there is always a need because since this whole concept is a sort of link for the connected, we start thinking of an island corridor. This could be, and this is not a minor reason. We need to start thinking of island language. Because as Professor Bush has said, look, it could be competing with the source. And by the way, this is not the first time I hear. I've been hearing this ever since I came. And I even one of the bishops telling me, and that was fun. Really fun. And I asked him, how many bishops has been laid down 2020? Almost 1,900. During these 1,900, anybody here for a negative mission or unfinished for minus? The answer is zero. And the problem with the whole concept is based on inactive presumption. But as just mentioned, it might be completely this is an active presumption. That he would have some misgivings with this. And I would be surprised, I don't know, it's not surprising to me, but it might be surprising. Okay. But it will not turn from the theoretical level into an applicable level without interacting. And I do not mean the system, because a lot of people think that we are against this whole thing because of the system, because it's complete. And I will surprise you again. We do have right now the competitor with the system. As I just mentioned, we have 6 ports on the Red Sea, 5 ports on the Mediterranean Sea, a whole network of highways and railways, even railway that is linked to the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea. This is in competition with the Suez Canal. So, I could not compete with the Suez Canal. We are competing with the Suez Canal. It is competing with the Suez Canal. So we have all the alternatives. We have the multimodal alternative, we have the Suez. And choose whatever. So that is why I always say that when we speak about climate, we don't speak about climate, any other alternative, any other issue. Let's speak about network. That's what it's all about. We are not as you rightly said. It's not about competition, it's about collaboration. We cannot compete with them. It's not in our interest. And by the way, and geography and history teach us again, and I will see that. When the British Empire wanted to reach them, which way did it? How did it? You were occupied you were colonized by the Brits. But in order to colonize India, we had to colonize them. We were colonized because
After 1869.
exactly
After 1869.
we were colonized before.
Yeah, you were colonized before. But the India angle came in after 1869.
That's why they had to go through.
Yes, that's okay.
And the same thing when India is trying to increase its outreach to Europe and Africa. This is basically
Very valid points made, Ambassador. And just one comment on that. I think you have spoken from your heart. And I think it has touched everyone, because, you know, what you have said is very poignant. It is not just a plain recount of history of developments of events. No, you've spoken from your heart as to, you know, what Egypt really stands for. And I think those are the principles, again, basically, whether it's the principle of non-violence that Mahatma Gandhi gave, or the whole ideology and philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam that we follow, and I'm sure you are aware the whole world is one earth, one family, one future. So I think we are really visualizing the world from the same angle. So this is good. I tend to agree when I'm just speaking off the top of my head when you say not competition but complementarity. And if you are having, because trade is increasing, trade is growing, there are so many opportunities and so many possibilities. Whether it is the Suez, or it is the IMEC, or it is the INSTs. I think they are meeting, they are responding to different requirements and different challenges. And as I think what you said, because INSTC, Professor Bhushan Sachdeva has been working on that, I have been working on that. It started from India to Iran to Azerbaijan to Russia. Now, of course, we are coming to Central Asia because there are challenges there. The point that I'm making, and we need to reinforce what you have said, that we need to be creative, we need to be innovative, and as circumstances change, we sort of try to introduce different elements. And here we have seen that even Armenia has come forward, that, you know, they want to be a part of this connectivity as INSTC and the Connect to Europe. So I think there are so many possibilities as we are going through.
The corridor should be enough.
Yeah, it should be yeah.
Yes, very grateful that spoke in terms of, if you could please use yourself, I think that I'm using it, honoring the principle, and really, it was a need at the time, long back, so 1950s, it is a need today also. I'd like to ask one question, say, related to G20+1 now, and Africa. The position in Africa, if I see it per capita incomes of countries, some of the countries in Africa have less than $700 a year. And this is on PPP terms. That means actual one is much lower, but against it, the rich countries have SBI caps it at $75,000, more than 100 times. There are some countries above $75,000. So this kind of gap, and we are reaching 2030 completion of SDG. Secondly, Ambassador had also raised the issue of net food import in developing countries. The latest crop prospects by FAO indicate 33 countries. There are 45 which are NFIDC, but 33 are in Africa. So how do you visualize? Because these shortcomings are year after year, and in the short run, say within 4 to 5, 7 years, these are not going to evaporate. What can be done on these issues? The very low per capita incomes, a large number of applicants. Of course, Egypt has much better situation. And since, yeah. So how do you visualize after Africa becoming a member of G20, it will help in reducing these problems? Okay, so I'm Dr. P.K. Anand, working in RAs, and I'm retired from Indian institutions, the premier service.
So thank you very much for this very interesting discussion, and then speaking out of your own heart. I like the perspective that Chair mentioned. I would take the cue from what he said, but I would like to look at it from an operational perspective. Africa has done for Agenda 20, and how Egypt is contributing to that process, which will take care of the
concern that, Dr. Anand also raised. That how, Dr. You mentioned over several times, and I strongly support that it's not an age of competition, it's an age of collaboration. So how did it looks through the process of collaboration with Global South? And in that context, how it takes care of Agenda 2050. That is very relevant in that context. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, His Excellency, your excellent speech. Just I would like to add what Professor Milindo asked. As you mentioned, the South-South cooperation in your state as well as the regular cooperation. If we see the bilateral cooperation, India and Egypt in ITEC, ICR, ICCR, IES, and in 2019, Egypt Space Agency cooperation in space. But recently, the aid cut by the DEC member countries, and we estimated in this year, there will be like USA, Turkey, cut by there was a Germany will also cut, Netherlands will also cut, all the DEC member countries. And this year there will be around 80, 90 billion so for their code out because they will be efficient. In this context, how India and Egypt partner in the triangular framework with the other countries, and in which area you would like to suggest? Thank you.
First together because they are all related to Africa. Africa, there are certain pivots in Africa. There is Egypt, there is South Africa. So we carry on our shoulders all the interests of Africa. We are investing a lot in infrastructure, and here comes what I mentioned about connectivity. We're connecting with all we are connecting Africa together. On the political level, we are aware of challenges that we have in Africa. We are trying to solve them. Of course, for Egypt, all of Africa is very important. And what Africa needs is connectivity, collaboration, and conflict building. And I would not our resolution because they all everybody's thinking about the peacekeeping. There is no peace, so we need to work on that. But we are very vigilant on and also digitalization. This is the name of the game now. And this brings me to the angle of the trilateral approach. What can we do together for us? Actually, there's a lot of things that can be. This is one of these that I'm coming to focus on here in the trilateral approach. We have the expertise, we have the know, and we have the market that needs this audience in that. So there's a lot of opportunity for us here, for Egypt and India, to share our expertise with them. And I would recall, and this month we are having it's starting today or tomorrow. No, today it's 17th. There's a big health digital African conference that is being held in Egypt. And the first country that we have focused on to invite them is India. The conference is starting today. There's a very big invitation to India. Why India? Because of trilateral cooperation. We need to gain your know-how with the Egyptian expertise for serving Africa in the field of digital health. So this is one of the fields that I consider them one of my priorities here in working here in India. Agenda 2060, what we are doing, as I mentioned, connectivity, digitalization, and more importantly, African Free Trade Area, which came into force now, which is part of our the network of free trade agreements with bilateral cooperation with there's I have a word that I've told one of the big officials here when I came when I first I told them, sir, I'm coming as all ambassador. I feel that the sky is the limit for cooperation with them. And then it took me something like 2, 3, 4 months. And then there was a coincidence where I met him again. And I told him, sir, I owe you an apology. I like you. And then, because remember when we met at that time, I told you that sky is the limit. I was wrong. And he was surprised that the ambassador saying, telling him that the sky is the limit, he was wrong. I don't agree. That was wrong. Why? Do you have any problem here? No, but the sky is the limit is very conservative. I think Mars is the limit. So this is the level of ambition. Ambition, not the possible cooperation. This is the possible. But we have a problem. We do have. You do not know the real potential, and Egypt does not know the real potential. This is the challenge that I'm facing here, and I'm sure the Indian ambassador is too. And we spoke to them, and that's why I make it a point to come to speak to them. Tell you the real potential. It is beyond your imagination, and even sometimes beyond the policy makers. Put your hands up.
Great. So I think on this very happy note and very positive and optimistic note, let us all join together.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency Ambassador Kamal Balan, for excellent leadership. Thank you very much. And thank you for taking all the time.
So yeah, thank you. Well, I mean, I think really at the end, I don't need to conclude anything because I think things are so clear. But only two things actually I really learned in this whole conversation for the last 90 minutes. One is, and you're absolutely right, that if anything, what we are doing at the center, Global South Center of Excellence, and the point which really we have to keep in mind is about principles of Global South. Because there are, as you said, the historical injustices which need to be looked into. And if we move away from those principles, then in fact there is nothing actually any different than what the North is doing and what we can do in the Global South. And the second point again, which is very, very important for all of us to really work on, but there is a lot of things are happening all across the world, and this is what actually, I asked specifically about IMEC because if it provoke you in that sense that you can really come out with the kind of thinking you have. But I always believed, if you can read my, writing for the last many, many years, I've been following this whole connectivity thing for more than 2 decades now. I always believe that actually most of these connectivity initiatives will have to merge with each other in the long run. Because there's so much thing which is happening. And if they start competing with each other, there is actually, we are not able to realize potential of anyone. But the problem has been that, the geopolitics is overtaken all kind of narratives all across. And that's why, in fact, we start thinking about the competition of A to B to C to something. And that's what exactly the major problem with all the connectivity projects we have. And I'm really glad that you really brought these two particular points, I would say, which are very, very important for us to work at the Global South Center, because about principles and about complementarity and how countries can really work together. This is what, in fact, the whole purpose of the Global South Center of Excellence is. All countries of the Global South, whichever country consider itself to be Global South, for us, that's a Global South. You know, there's no point in getting into definition aspects of the word. Yeah. So, and in fact, I'm thankful for both of you to initiating this inaugural thing, and I'm sure that, many more ambassadors will come and many more good conversations will happen, which will ultimately, hopefully, benefit the long run, the kind of specific issues you ask about, triangular cooperation, I think it can really work out of this. Thank you so much, everyone, and the Excellency and Ambassador Sajjan, and everyone who has participated. Just wait for half a minute. We'll just have a small token of appreciation for the ambassador and then after that we'll go, privilege for tea. Abhijit. Thank you very much. And you also have some pictures also. Thank you. Thank you so much. And in fact, I forgot to thank people who participated online, also few of them. And all of you are welcome to come and for this IT out. Thanks. आपको पता है आपसे Thank you.